I am here with Rick Levine, my dear, dear friend, whom I love with all my heart, and you are just remarkable. I've watched you navigate the world in your wizard Merlin ways for years, and
Decades.
yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long road, and I've heard you speak and watch you do your work and read poems that you've written and write books and master astrologist. And what else? What am I missing? Anything?
That sounds like enough.
I feel tired just giving an introduction
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on Passionate Living, because I cannot imagine a more passionate person than you. You just, everything you approach in life is with just such heart. And have you always been like that?
Yeah, but I don't think I had that language to put around it. It was like,
Right.
calm down. You know, as a kid, it's like, you just take it easy. It'll be okay. Calm down. And yet that, as an adult, turns into passion, I think.
Right, yeah, exactly. Now, astrology.
Astrology.
I have to ask the obvious question. What the heck is going on in the world right now? And you say that the astrology really lines up perfectly with what's going on.
Well, the astrology can't help
Right.
but always line up perfectly with what's going on, because that's what's going on.
Right.
You know, astrology is based upon this magical thing that we got from ancient Egypt, which is sometimes referred to as the Emerald Tablet. And the Emerald Tablet, which allegedly was created by this legendary Egyptian character, sometimes referred to as Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes is Greek for Mercury,
Okay.
which is Latin, and Hermes, which is the god of communication, of language, of intellect.
Right.
And Hermes Trismegistus means Hermes the 3 times great.
Oh, okay.
And in the Emerald Tablet, it begins that, and it says something that people have heard over and over again, and people know it as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's only a piece of a much larger statement, and it's as above, so below. The within of things is as the without of things, meaning that the inside and the outside are not reflections of each other. They're the same thing.
Right.
And we're just somehow in the middle looking at the two things, thinking they're separate. But,
Right.
but astrology is perfect in its reflection, because it's not a reflection, it is the same thing. It is done, as Christians all over the world say, but I think sometimes forget that they say it. They say it is done on earth as it is in heaven, because they are one and the same thing. And yes, the astrology of these times is extraordinary for a number of reasons, going back probably, well, back as far as we can go, but just as a starting point, the astrology of the mid-60s set into motion a cycle that is coming right now to a point of a turning point. And it's more technical than we can dig into in just a few minutes.
Right, right.
However, what's important to understand that in April of 2024, a combination of a retrograde Mercury, a total eclipse of the sun, and the once every 14-year alignment of Jupiter, the teacher. In Hindu, Hindi, Jupiter is guru. It's the teacher, it's
Right.
the expansion, it's the magnifier. And once every 14 years, Jupiter lines up with Uranus, the sky god, the father of the sky. Uranus represents radical rebellion, awareness, awakening, breakthrough. And so you get this magnification of this breakthrough, and we're on the cusp of a whole new thing that you don't even have to be an astrologer to know that there's stuff going on these days.
Yeah. Now, looking at the astrology, and based on all of the changes and all of the craziness going on in the world now. And I guess some people could say the world is always a little crazy. And it's
I would agree with that,
Yeah.
but right now it's a little crazier
Than
for a
normal.
number of
Right.
reasons. Not even astrological reasons, although
Right.
they fit right into it, but the world is crazier than
Yeah.
normal right now.
Now, tell me a little bit about that, based on the astrology, and what can we look toward in the coming years?
I'm not sure I got the first part of the question, but the second part of the question is what we can look for in the coming years is, do you remember the old Monty Python? And now for something completely different?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. It's like whatever we think we are in right now, things are going to change that dramatically and we're going to be somewhere else. If we can understand the acronyms AI, ET, and EIEIO, we're good to go. And AI, or it's actually really ASI, not artificial intelligence, but artificial superintelligence, which is one of the things coming into play.
Right.
And ET, which has its own thing, which is also coming into play, whether we're ready for it or not. And the EIEIO is a little bit more complex to explain, but there is an explanation there. But we can just think of all the animals on McDonald's farm and everyone having their own voice, and that's part of all what's going on right now. Well, astrologically, it basically is, in a way, it's a dance between the old and the new. Astrologically, we would call Saturn the planet of stability, the planet of the old, the planet of the status quo, and we would call Uranus the planet of the breakthrough, of the future, of the technology. And there's been this kind of ongoing dance since I think that came into play much stronger since maybe around 2020-ish. And again, there's cycles within cycles within cycles. I could bore you for hours on the technological details.
Right.
But the point is that there are people who are excited about the future who can't wait to get around the bend. Those are the Aquarius, Uranian people. Pluto has, for the first time since the United States was founded 248 years ago, Pluto takes 248 years to go around once. It's back in Aquarius. And when it was in Aquarius last time, that was the foundation of the United States of America. It was the French Revolution, the American Revolution. That was the beginning of this whole experiment of countries that were not owned by a family line that was divinely, gifted by God to own a country. That was huge. And we're back there again, and something's happening. It's like we have a birthday once a year. For those people who know astrology, you know that every 29 years or so, you have a Saturn return. It's like a Saturn birthday, and it's a maturity cycle. Well, every 248 years, you have a Pluto birthday. And Pluto is the planet of death and regeneration. And what we're seeing in the United States on its 248th birthday, we're seeing basically the United States one Pluto year old. And it's going through a deconstruction, reconstruction, because that's what Pluto's job is in our life. Pluto intensifies things because it creates endings and new beginnings. And that can happen in a variety of ways. But for the United States, this is part of what's going on as Pluto has first tipped into Aquarius in 2023. And in 24, it's stably in Aquarius, and it'll be there for another couple of decades. Aquarius is the sign of Uranus, the future. And so we saw the week that Pluto moved into Aquarius in March of 2023, ChatGPT was publicly released. And so we see these clues of how the technology is changing that fast. Now we come back to April of 2024, and we see that Jupiter...
Hey, just a quick message that if you like what you're watching, please press like, comment, subscribe. It really does help us to get our message out there to the world around us. And if you do feel inclined to press the donate button, we do appreciate every bit of help we can get to pay our crew to keep going out, bringing you these wonderful stories of passionate living. Now back to our program.
Planet of expansion is lining up with Uranus, the planet of the future. And that's great if you're excited about the future. But there's a lot of people who are scared crapless about the future. And they want stability. They want certainty. They want what Freud called infantile regression. When things get tough, we want to go back to the past where we thought things were safe. You know, when we had mom and dad and things were safe.
Back into the womb, yeah.
Back into the womb or back to the breast.
Right.
And so we have this whole consciousness of Saturn wanting to hold on to the illusion of how great things were in the past, and that's make America great again. We want to go back to the past. And again, it's important to understand that these are not, how do I want to say this? There's no judgment as to which side of any equation we're on.
Right.
There's reasons for both. However, we've been stretched to the extreme because of this bifurcation of let's plow into the future. No, let's go back to the past. And, you know, the future will win out. But the question is, how much of the past can we hold on to? Because if we go too headlong, too strong, too fast, too far into the future, we can lose our footing. So it's not like one way or another. It's how do we find a balance between these two energies, between Saturn and Uranus.
Oh yeah, that I realize being a Libra doesn't mean that I'm always balancing, but that I'm always looking for balance.
And you know, Libra as one of the 12 signs is the only sign in the zodiac. And you know, the word zodiac comes from a Greek word, zoidion, which means menagerie. To the Greeks, the universe was alive.
Right.
And so the menagerie consisted of things that were alive, except for Libra. Libra is the only sign. Aries is the ram, Taurus is the bull, Gemini is the twins, Cancer is the crab. I mean, each of them are names of animals. Libra is the halfway point in the cycle. Begins with Aries, ends with Pisces, and the halfway point in the cycle is the turning point, and that is about the scale. Libra is just Latin for scales. It's the balance point. That's why artists and people who are diplomats and people who are therapists and people who are go-betweeners, people who are standing in between these two bifurcated extremes, they tend to be the Librans.
It's interesting because we come from those similar backgrounds where when I was in school, you know, growing up, my mom had a jewelry, health food, ESP store. And for anyone that doesn't know ESP, extrasensory perception, is what we call the psychic phenomenon now.
That's right.
And then my great-grandparents ran the hotel at Lilydale. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, then so there was just like this whole thing. And I was the first person in my family to go to college. I moved out at 17 because I graduated, got an apartment, and put myself through college. Worked about 1 million part-time jobs, got myself through school. And I was so starving for the mainstream, being raised with all of this alternative stuff. And what fascinated me was very shortly into the program, I took this 5-year biology degree, you know, for pre-med, pre-vet. I realized that they were saying the same thing in 2 different languages. Energy can't be created nor destroyed. It has the ability to be transferred. It explains every psychic phenomenon or remote healing or energy work. And it's interesting because it laid the foundation for me to start Holistic Health Journal because I wanted to add credibility to all of these natural health modalities. And, you know, so it's an interesting thing how we came at it exposed to all of these things that we weren't supposed to be exposed to for the mainstream.
And which for your listeners, we should say that we originally met not as me as an astrologer, but work that we were both doing in the alternative medicine, natural health field, where we were both doing active work in that realm.
Because it was at the Natural Products Expo that we originally met back in the
early 90s.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
about
my
95 maybe. In somewhere in there.
95, because the first year I went was 94. I think I met you after the first year I
Yep.
went.
Mm-hmm.
And we both were very involved
Yep.
in natural health and wellness.
Yep.
And looking for the credibility, looking for the good products, because as we all know, there were the fly-by-night products that came and went because there was no substantial evidence that anything worked.
As there are fly-by-night astrologers who are just,
Right.
Doing it to scam or make money.
Right.
Just like there are,
Fly-by-night doctors who
unfortunately.
and everything. But
Yeah.
so that was our.
So that's how I became an astrologer. It was like I just somehow or other, like many people that I know that are astrologers, I've heard other astrologers say this too. I never learned astrology. I just kind of somehow remembered it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
And that feels right for me. I learned it when I really decided that this was something I wanted to pursue and study. I learned it much faster than I have learned other things.
I just assumed you've been like the Merlin of the centuries. I mean, you even look like Merlin. I mean,
on a good day.
You look
I
great.
could put on a pointed hat and wave a wand.
I love the whole concept of passionate living. And I would go to NATB every year, the big television film conference, and I would ask the celebrities, what are you passionate about? And they would light up because they got the same typical questions all day long. And that like, oh, I'm passionate about this and this and this. But when they really lit up is when I said, how do you use that to give back in the world? And then it was like, then they really lit up. And then it was a whole different level of conversation. And I want to ask you that. How do you use your astrology?
My underlying question as an astrologer has always been, how does Meta, and I don't mean the company, how does Meta become physical? Mm-hmm. Because you look at your life, my life, I have a collection of books, of paintings, of people, of experiences, of knowledge, of heartbreaks, of exciting moments, of accomplishments, of things in my life, of music, it's a constellation of experiences that somehow manifested from nothing. What is that process? And what is it that makes each person manifest their own constellation of things? There's something that's been my driving thing in astrology. And so converting that to what does that mean in my relationship to other people is my passion is finding a way to blow someone's mind. Is how can I meet someone and do something that goes and make some circuits fry that allows them to open up to see that what they thought things were are not the way things are. Things are even more amazing, more cool, more magical, more something, because my life personally has been that exploration for me, and I love to see other people light up that way.
I love that. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you. You're amazing. I am so grateful. And how perfect to come to Seattle to see my grandchild. And here you are. Bam.
Right? In
For your
Merlin's
birthday.
in Merlin's cave. Or
Merlin's den, lair, cave.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, it's lovely to get a chance to sit and talk with you. I've seen you talk with so many people, bringing out just, amazing energy in them, because that's what you do, and now I get a chance to do that with you. Cool.
Well, I just love you, and I'm so grateful to you.